Hey, Black girl. No matter who you are, whether big or small, you are more than enough and can have it all. The world may say, you're too this or you're too that. Put those cakes away. You're too big to have a snack. Give it to her. She needs meat on her bones. Put some clothes on, girl. Your body is too grown. Add some heat to your hair. It's way too kinky. Make it long and straight and then you'll be pretty. Shh. Be quiet, you're way too loud. Stay in the box we put you in and don't make a sound. Hey, Black girl, wanna change that chocolate skin? Ready to change everything on the outside so you forget who you are within? Forget those dreams of becoming something, because the way the world is set up, your life means nothing. Hey, Black girl, did I say too much? I thought you were built to steal, superwoman, and can't be touched. Hey, world, shush. Shh. I am more than enough. My body is fine the way that it is, whether I'm big, skinny, or thick. I don't look to you to be beautiful because my confidence is a bliss. I love every kink, coil, and curl in my hair. I wear it like a crown because my style is rare. I will never be quiet because what I say matters. I will be seen and heard, nonetheless, or the latter. Hey world, my skin is so rich, it makes me feel wealthy. I would never change a thing about myself. I was born to be the best me. My dreams were on a pavement, a Black girl in motion. My life matters no matter your emotion. Hey, Black girls, no matter who you are, whether big or small, you are more than enough and can absolutely have it all.
Oh, we on the podcast, baby.
Club Talk. Jay Brody. Yeah, baby, it's that Club Talk. Yeah, baby, it's that Club Talk. You're now listening to that Club Talk. And now, your host, Jay Brody. 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Club Talk Podcast. If this is your first time listening to the show, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts rather, or any audio streaming platform, make sure you go ahead and subscribe, rate, comment, and drop a like. Take care of our sponsor real quick. Want to shout out theflyeragency.com. If you are in need of any graphics, any website design, any animation, anything that you need visually to support your brand, make sure you hit up theflyeragency.com. Also want to shout out a dope podcast out there in Dallas. To me personally, one of the best podcasts out there in the Dallas market. The Reality is, which is a production by Roberts Media Group. If you enjoy unfiltered conversations, raw, formatted, just right in your face type of content, make sure you go ahead and head over to The Reality Is, subscribe to their podcast. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Also, lastly, if you are an artist and you want to send your music in to get played on the podcast during the breaks, send that to clothtalk5@gmail.com. Once again, that is clothtalk5@gmail.com. All right, we got a I don't know how to big up this person enough. This person is a juggernaut. When I say this person's name, for y'all who are out here in the Columbus market, in any other cities or markets, y'all going to know who this person is. Been putting in a lot of work. Name has been ringing bells. Whitney B is here.
Hey,
Whitney B has joined the Club Talk podcast. You got a lot going on right now. You are like you don't stop. Like you're constantly pushing the envelope. You're constantly challenging yourself. You're constantly getting into different things, and it seems like you're in this space where you just hit a stride and you're not stopping. So you got a lot going on, which you're going to talk about. You done released a book, and there's numerous things that are just happening for you in 2021. You're off to a good start so far.
I think so.
So before we get into all the stuff that you got going on with the new book and the new podcast that you started with in conjunction with the book, which we're going to get into. So for catch us up how have things been for you as far as business and all that stuff? What's been, catch us up, what's been going on with you?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much to the Cloth Talk podcast community. I'm super excited to be here and to share with you. Thank you, Jerome, or Jay Brody, as you like to call him, for this opportunity.
That'll be edited.
No, you better keep it in the podcast. That's his name.
Yeah. They know.
But I mean, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. I think that 2020 was a year that was tumultuous for everyone. I think everyone went through something in 21, and it's really one of those years that was a wake-up call for a lot of us. And for me, I feel like that was my year of pausing. You know, I had been someone who was always on the go, always on the move. And then last year, I really took the opportunity to pause. You know, I had a lot of different changes just in my personal life, but just also in my business as well. And, you know, and these were things that, you know, when you feel like you had everything, it almost seems like it went from me going from everything to having nothing. And, you know, I got to a low place where I'm like, man, you know, what is my life supposed to look like? You know, everything that I thought it was supposed to be is not. It's not what it is at this moment. And so then I started to think about, you know, just being a little girl. And I feel like a lot of the feelings that I had in 2020 were feelings that I had when I was a youth. You know, I felt like I was unwanted. I felt like, you know, I wasn't confident anymore. You know, I felt just different levels of low self-esteem that put me in a place of just questioning myself. But then I thought about that little girl that I used to be, and I'm like, man, you know, that little girl that I used to be is depending on me to be a lot stronger and to be a lot better than, you know, what the place that I was at that time. So one day I was in Las Vegas for a writing conference. I had been attending this writing conference for several years. This is the third year that I had attended this conference. And I was just in a flow. I was so inspired by all these people who had different works and different, you know, different literary endeavors. And I'm like, man, you know, I want to write another book, because I wrote a book before called The Skinny Black Girl's Guide to Freedom. But I had always wanted to write a children's book, but I could never find the words. And so at 7 a.m. in Las Vegas, Nevada, I sat in a hotel, and then the words "Hey Black Girl" came to my head. And I'm like, you know, what are all the things that the world told me? Like, the world told me that I needed to be thick. The world told me that it wasn't good to be smart. You know, the world told me that I didn't have a voice. And how would I respond to those things? What is the things that I would say to the world now? And so that's how the cadence of the book came. Like, everything, because, you know, I used to rap when I was in college or whatever. So
little known fact.
You know, everything, the cadence and just how everything flowed, just this all came together. So I started on the book in September. I had started to work on the illustrations. I'm not an illustrator, so like I use a graphic design program to start putting things together. But then close to, I would say, December of 2020, I had a conversation, and the conversation, again, it kind of rocked me again. It kind of rocked me and made me start to question myself. And I'm like, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to finish this book. And so literally the day of my birthday, I sat up for 5 hours and I finished every single page of that book. I finished every single design, the layout, and everything else. I sent it to Staples just to see what it would look like, because I was so determined to drop that book on my birthday, because this book, you know, it represented my freedom. It represented me saying that, you know, I am more than enough and I can have it all, and I want other girls to feel the same way too. Wow,
that's amazing. So like, that's crazy. You finished this whole thing in one day.
Almost. Well, it's not necessarily the whole thing. Like, I had half of it done, and then like I would say the first 8 pages were done, and then I finished the rest of it on my birthday. Yeah. There's 44 pages in total, 22 front back. So
wow.
Yeah.
So for you, this book was something that was inside of you that you needed to get out for yourself. It wasn't necessarily like, let me go ahead and write a book for black girls. That wasn't the first initial thought, like oh, you know, because when you released it, you know, for people who don't follow you or follow your work, your work is not geared towards, you know, you producing a lot of content or works for younger kids. Your work is more professional. It's adult, like it's geared towards a certain. So when that book, I was like, wow, children's book. That's you know, that's an interesting, you know, thing that she did. I was like, wow, I wonder why she decided to do that. But hearing you explain it now, it makes sense. So for you, that was a personal journey for you that you was going throughout your life, which has inspired this book.
Absolutely. I mean, behind the scenes, I've always done work with youth. I've always done work with young girls.
Yeah.
I've done volunteer work with my high schools, at multiple high schools and elementary schools and youth groups, just talking to kids about, you know, social media, what to do, what not to do, learning how to love yourself and believe yourself. And I feel like this book is a culmination of the things that I would tell those children. And it's crazy because, like, we tell kids to do things that we don't even believe ourselves sometimes. And I think the reason that the book never happened for me initially is because I didn't believe some of the things that I would tell other people about themselves. But I got to a place where I started to believe these things, like, you know, I do matter, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am smart. And, you know, it hits different when you start to believe those things in yourself. And once I embraced that, it became okay for me to write that, because if I didn't believe those things, then this book would be a fraud to me.
Yeah. So what was this something that you were, like you said, you had the idea, like it's something that was inside of you, but you finally, you know, got it out and wrote it. Was this something that you thought that you wasn't sure how the reception would be, or was you just like, you know what, the hell with it, I gotta do it because it's inside of me?
It was organic, Jerome. It was really organic. Like, I didn't really care. It wasn't on brand. It wasn't a part of my plans. Like, last year I worked with a business coach. You know, we had this big grandiose plan for me to do things in my business. I haven't even launched any of the things that I was supposed to do for my business, because this book felt more compelling and more, it mattered more to me to launch this than anything else, because this is very personal to me. Anything that you see me do on social media for this book, it's not written down in a plan. And I know that's really bad for me, because, you know, I'm a marketer. I do these things for other people, but it had to feel like mine. Like, and that's the thing, like, you know, in my profession as a content marketer, people always ask me what works, what sticks, right? And the thing that has worked for me time and time over in my tried and true method of marketing is just showing up and being myself. I think that is what ultimately brings people to you. There's no secret formula. There's no secret solution. When you bring yourself, you know, it truly is a filter, and it attracts the people who are for you. And so I know that, you know, everything that I've been able to do up to this point, I mean, and the book's only been out for a month at this point, you know, at the time of this recording. And, you know, I've already been able to talk to schools, talk to groups. You know, people have bought bulk copies. I mean, like, it's been overwhelming, not in a bad way, but in a way that I would have never have imagined. And it just started with me just taking that first step to write the first word.
Yeah, that was going to be actually my next question, was like the reception of the book, like how people received it. Like you were saying, like when you released it, it just kind of took off, and you, like you said, you sold out, people buying it in bulk, and people sharing it, and all types of things. Like, how were you surprised about the reception of the book?
I was, because I wrote a book before, and I mean, my book before did decent, you know what I mean? Like, people bought it, people supported it, but not like this. Like, this was something that it tapped a nerve. I feel like it tapped a nerve for people, because it's so relatable. And I don't know if it's just because of the timing of it. You know, like, my book officially, I announced it in January, but it officially released in February, Black History Month. You know, like, right now, Black Pride is at an all-time high. You know, people love Black girl magic. You know, we just saw Kamala Harris become the first vice president of the United States. So, you know, Black women are excited. You know, they're looking for positive representation. This book, to me, I mean, it's positive media, it's positive representation. And, you know, regardless of if people are reading it today or if they're reading it 50 years from now, I think there's still something to learn from it. And I think it's been interesting, because, you know, I have friends who have children. They bought it for their kids have read it and reacted to it, and now they're having conversations in their household that they weren't having. Like, my friend was having a conversation with their daughter about, you know, why she dresses her a certain way. And, you know, her daughter was like, well, why can't I wear crop tops and leggings? And she's like, well, you know, you're young, but you're very shapely, and, you know, people will look at you a certain way. But they had never talked about those things before, but it came from reading the book. So that's what I'm most excited about. I'm most excited about the conversations. I'm most excited about breaking generational curses amongst women, because women, they grow up, you know, if you don't have that person around you who's cheering you on, being your cheerleader, and really boosting and promoting your self-esteem, you carry a lot of things from your childhood into adulthood. And then that trickles on down to, you know, the kids that you have, because you have unresolved things. So I'm hoping that it's helping both parents address things that were unresolved within them, but I'm also hoping that it helps with their kids, and for their kids to know that they are able to have self-confidence.
Talk to me about the title, Hey Black Girl. You know, it's like it's like in your face, like, hey, black girl.
I don't know.
Where
like,
did that title come from?
Well, the title, I said, hey, black girl, because it just is what it is. You know, sometimes when you show up in certain spaces, you feel like that's just what you are. You're a black face, you know, like I've worked in, you know, corporate America. I've been to a school where I was the only black person in a class. You know what I mean? Like, you feel like the only, and even though you may be smart, even though you might have a lot of talent, you may bring something to the table, when people see you, that's what they see. Sometimes they just see a black girl. So, you know, I just wanted to put it in the perspective of the world, because sometimes that's what the world sees us as, just as black people. You know, like they don't see the things that we have going on beyond the surface. And, you know, the words in the book goes to show that I'm more than just a black girl. Yes, I'm black, I'm proud to be black, but there are so many more layers of me than my skin color.
Yeah, and I think this like is important, especially for like young black women coming up, because like, you know, in preparing for this interview, sitting down with you, I had done like a little bit of research last night and today, just like reading a couple of articles on how black women perceive themselves, especially young black women, and you know, kind of along the lines of what you were saying, like a lot of black women kind of feel like they're in an environment or spaces where they don't necessarily know if they belong there, or if they fit there, or if they're even accepted there, or they may be the only one and they don't know how to feel in those spaces, and it kind of pushes them into a space where they have to kind of be someone who they're really not, just to kind of just mold themselves into.
Yeah, you do, and it's scary, you know. I really wish and imagine and hope for a world where black girls are comfortable being themselves. Like, I remember going to work, you know, living in Cincinnati. I remember working in, you know, corporate America and feeling like I had to go to work every day with a smile on my face. I mean, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to smile, but if I didn't smile, then I would be labeled an angry black woman. I had to be mindful how I wore my hair. I couldn't switch my hairstyles up too frequently, because then people be like, oh, well, what's that? Can I touch your hair? What is that? You know, it brings too much attention to yourself. And, you know, you feel like you have to put yourself not necessarily in a box, but you almost have to take away certain elements of yourself to assimilate. And that's what bothers me the most about this world. The world wants people to assimilate. They want all of us to be the same. Instead of honoring people's differences, we try to sweep them under the rug and insist that we're all the same. And when in fact, the differences is what truly create diversity. You know, like we hear that term thrown around a lot, diversity and inclusion, especially now in 2020, 2021 with like the Black Lives Matters movement. I think that we have to learn how to embrace everyone's plight. You know, I've been asked by, you know, colleagues and just different people. They're like, well, why don't you do a hey black boy? Or why don't you do, you know, a hey brown girl, or hey this? And, you know, everybody wants their own variation. And I get it, because everybody deserves to be heard, no doubt. But you have to realize that I can't be the spokesperson for everyone. I can only speak for my own struggles. I'm not even the spokesperson for black girls or black women. You know, like if you know, my hope is that when people read this work, or anything that I do, they see themselves in that experience and they identify, and it encourages them to talk about their experiences. There are still other aspects of black girls that I didn't even touch in that book. You know, those are just the things that touched me. So, you know, I'm just hoping that this piece of work inspires people to continue to use their voice and continue to amplify the conversation, so that people can really, you know, create a space where people can be themselves. You
know, I wanted to ask you something, like in general, you know, like, cause I'm putting myself in the position of how a black woman would perceive herself in the world. I have a sister who's older, and you know, seeing the things that she kind of encountered, and also my mother kind of encountered, because I'm the only boy growing up, and I just wanted to ask you, like, do you think, like, in general, like black women specifically struggle with self-love?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's not something that's really taught. You know, it's something that you encounter later on after you've been through, you know, a gazillion and one different issues. And it's like, you know, once you've dealt with so many different types of situations, like self-love is really the only thing that you can learn how to turn to.
It seems like that's so, like, because it's so, it puts me in a position where I'm like really, like, because like when you look at a black woman from the surface, from the outside looking on, you see a strong woman, see a woman who who's out there getting it, but then like inside they're battling with
so much
and you wouldn't even realize it. And if you're not close to a black woman, if you're not taking the time to get to know one, speak to one, be one-on-one with them, like the things that they are dealing with inside, to regular guys, we just we wouldn't know.
Well,
it's
I
crazy.
think black women are taught to be strong.
Yeah.
And we're taught to be stronger than what most people give us credit for.
Yeah.
Strength is something that's really important. I mean, it's almost like with the world, you're fighting so many different battles and so many different fronts of people. You got to think about work. You have to think about, thinking about like the dating scene and everything else. Like there's so many different facets of, how you need to show up, because, black girls are taught early. I don't know, in your studies, I don't know if you came across anything that referenced about how black girls pretty much have to grow up faster, like they get old, they have to almost be adults way faster. Like you almost don't even have a childhood with some black girls.
I seen that with my sister. She's older, and I was like, man, like just do things she was doing at a younger age, and how she had to carry herself. It's like, this girl's 12, 13 years old. How,
Yeah, I mean, and then even just the perception. I sat in on a Clubhouse discussion a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the school to prison pipeline. We hear a lot about the system imprisoning, young black boys and putting young black boys in the system. And the same thing goes for young black girls. Young black girls are being suspended at higher rates. They go to detention. They're being perceived a certain way. They're being perceived as having an attitude, and sometimes it's not an attitude thing. It's just a cultural thing. And if you don't have the right people in place in those schools to identify what is what's the real problem is, or what's really happening, then people get mislabeled. And I think that's what happens in black culture a lot. I think our youth are mislabeled and misunderstood. And they don't really have safe spaces to talk about those things, especially with parents. Like a lot of us, we millennials, so we came from having parents who were just like, well, whatever I say goes, and it just is what it is. They didn't have to explain themselves. And we have to change that. So when we have children, it's not just like, oh, you can't do that just because I said so. You want to give some justification and some reason, so they can understand where you're coming from, but they can also not have to feel like they have to resort to rebellion because they don't have answers. I think a lot of things happen with our youth because there's not a two-way dialogue between parents and children. And a lot of it comes from, I think, like a lot of people feel like they're not being heard, like they don't get a chance to even, like you said, like the parents just like, it is what I said what I said, that's it. And and over time that child builds up so much anger, so much resentment, and then they're out in this world and they never had the opportunities years and years coming up would be able to express how they really feel about something, or just even have it say so for something. And then and again, that goes into your adulthood. Like if you feel suppressed as a kid, it's very hard to express yourself as an adult because you don't know what the reaction is going to be. You're still fearful of what people are going to think about how you're thinking things, and it's okay to think differently and not think how other people think. But that's just the moral of the story.
It also made me I was reading these articles and stuff yesterday and today. It's something I came across too that I want to get your thoughts and opinions on as well. The images we see, the in the media that portrays black women a certain way, we show them as being over sexualized, for their bodies, and we use them for capital gains, and there's not really an investment with black women as far as the media goes, is actually looking at a black woman other than just what she can bring to you.
Exactly. That's why I love artists like Issa Rae. I love Issa Rae. I love what she did with the show Insecure, because Insecure wasn't about, because like it's only like a couple of different like types that we see in the media, like when it comes to like film and television.
Yeah.
We'll see like the ultra successful black woman, you know, who has an attitude, usually played by Gabrielle Union. Like, you know, like we see that type all the time, like super successful, witty, smart, you know, smart mouth, whatever. Or we see someone who's like super ghetto, ratchet, whatever.
Yeah.
But I liked what Issa Rae did with Insecure, because she literally showed a regular 29 to 30 some year old girl who had a regular job. She wasn't in power, you know, she struggled to pay her rent, she was broke, she had relationship problems, like she, you know, she encapsulated what it meant to be just a regular black girl. And I love the fact that we have social media, not just because I work in that space, but because it democratizes the images that we're able to see. We're not subjected to what mainstream media wants us to see when it comes to images of us, because now we're content creators. We create and dictate what the trend should look like, what the spaces should look like. You know, like even with you, like doing this podcast, like, you know, you're having conversations with people that you may not ever hear on TV. Yeah, you know, exactly. You may not ever hear that, and people are looking and hungry for those alternative viewpoints and those alternative perspectives, because people want to see themselves in the things that they watch. Yeah. So I think, you know, mainstream media is changing a little bit. You know, I was mentioning this to someone maybe yesterday. We were talking about images of black women. Like, I love like Viola Davis and Kerry Washington, like what they did with Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, because those are shows that had strong black female leads. You know, Shonda Rhimes did her thing. And I think when we will start to see better representation in Hollywood in those types of media, is when we have more diverse writers, producers, and people who are in those positions and in those roles to say, hey, you know, black women don't always act like this. Why don't we look at this perspective or look at this role and think about, you know, what it is that we're able to project on television. So I think that, you know, that is what is going to ultimately allow us to see better representation of black women. Yeah.
And also to add on to that, we're going to take a break here soon after this point. Another thing that I really appreciate about your book, Hey Black Girl, and how it relates to, you know, that self-love thing. You know, what hurts me today more than anything when I see, you know, young black women and even, you know, older black women is, you know, we talk about the self-love thing, is the body enhancements. Women struggling or not even feel like they're beautiful or attractive to where they have to, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I feel like that comes from, like we were talking about, that deeper place of feeling like you're actually a beautiful person. And, you know, we were talking about these images things. If we, you know, we're putting out these images of this is what a quote unquote a bad bitch look like. These are beautiful women. You gotta have the fat ass, the big titties, the small curvy waist, and all this stuff. And then a little girl may see these images coming up and she's like, oh, that's what beauty is. So if I don't look like that, then I'm not beautiful. A young woman can be very impressionable and believe this. And, you know, they're seeing these images coming up. It's like, well, I got to go to Dr. Miami. I got to get this tummy tuck. I got to get, you know, the lip fillers, full lips, and all this type of surgeries to try to fit what society standards are of beauty, in particular to black women. And it like really hurts me to see that. It's like, man, like why are these women like you were beautiful like you are, but these images, you know, on that side, it just hurts me to believe like they go into it and they result in spending thousands of dollars that, number one, you probably don't have, but you want to be accepted, but to people who really probably don't give two fucks about you.
Exactly.
You know, they're pumping so much money into, you know, all this enhancements, you know, and it's just like sad. Like no one's gonna, they're just gonna buy into you physically. You know, no one's gonna really invest into you. You're just kind of there as, you know, something to look at. And it's sad to see that some women fall into that.
Yeah, I think society standards are not reality.
Well, we sure act like it.
Yeah, I mean, we act like it, but at the end of the day, sometimes, and I'm not gonna say all the time, because everyone has different reasons for why they do different things.
Exactly.
I feel like you shouldn't go for things like that until you are fully invested in knowing and loving yourself. Because if you haven't taken the time to do the work on yourself, those things, they add layers, they add other complications to how you see yourself. Exactly. I mean, I even remember I had a friend in middle school who, if she didn't have a weave in her hair, she would not come to school. Wow. She would find a way to tell her mama that she was not coming to school, and she would not come to school until her hair was done because she thought she was ugly with her regular hair.
Exactly. Wow. Man.
You know, like, girls, they go through that. Yeah. That it's a reality. It's a reality, unfortunately, and I just think that we have to understand what the real problems are and not add to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Let them know where they can find the book at. We're going to take a quick break here. Let them know where they can find the book, follow you, connect with you, and all that good stuff. Plug away.
You can find the book on gumroad.com. You can look up Hey Black Girl. You can also find the link on pinklemonadepodcast.com.
There you go. We'll be right back here on Cloud Talk Podcast. Don't go nowhere.
I'm still running up a bag, running up a bag, driving out the band, bringing money back, balling for my hood, running up the tab, shorty on the man, shorty on the man. I just a fucking sucker saying, I love my money rubber band. You know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag. Oh bitch, I'm ballin' for my hood, only true hustlers understand. They know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag. Man, I said these niggas cool, but I'm a little cooler. Rick the ruler, get the rulers out. Let's see who measuring up. I got the wind of a rookie on top of veteran stuff. Don't I impress you enough? When I impress upon you, blessings, lessons, son. You run in circles, run in town, no curfew, but a nigga go in. I seen a light at the tunnel and said a nigga could win. So I did it and did it and did it again. I made it vivid, I live it, I'm on my pivot, I give it 100 when I'm in a plane, nigga. And I never ever been a fake nigga. I just had breakfast on a jet. I spent the Lexus on this necklace. You see me reppin' for the set. I say no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Gotta watch me do it. Now watch the God inside me do it. Oh yes, I'm live and living color. Oh yes, I got a little brother and an older two, and they both in jail. Fuck you want me do if you only knew shit that I've been through. All my haters way too hype for nothing. I get paper, they don't like me, fuck them. I'm still running up a bag, running up a bag, driving out the band, bringing money back, balling for my hood, running up the tab, shorty on the man, shorty on the man. I just a fucking sucker saying, I love my money rubber band. You know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag. Oh bitch, I'm ballin' for my hood, only true hustlers understand. They know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag. Man, I said these niggas cool, but they ain't got their soul connected. Man, I'm so connected, all my goals directed. I was chosen, my glow perfected. And that ain't the half, I'm the whole exception. And who are you to be withholding blessings? Love and peace is such a dope investment. Joy and pain, the same, they both reflect in each other cause they both connected. Search for answer cause my heart is empty. Feel like cancer spreading all your envy. Tainted city, painted anguish, still I painted pretty. Guess that's just the artist in me. I done turned the darkness to the sun. Yeah, my better harvest still to come. And I bet my father still the one reason that my son see the sun and know. Ain't no problem, baby, let it go. Yeah, your black skin is ghetto gold. Get attacked when the devil know. You got God in your heart, yeah. Fuck the game, we gon' charge it. Everything came from hardship. We maintain no facades, bitch. Gang, squad. I'm still running up a bag, running up a bag, driving out the band, bringing money back, balling for my hood, running up the tab, shorty on the man, shorty on the man. I just a fucking sucker saying, I love my money rubber band. You know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag. Oh bitch, I'm ballin' for my hood, only true hustlers understand. They know I'm running up a bag, running up a bag.
Alright, just like that, we are back right here on Cloud Talk Podcast. Whitney B is here. We are talking about the new release of this book, Hey Black Girl, and all things related. There's one thing I did want to talk about was the role black men play in their daughters' lives. If they are parents and they have young, if they're raising young black women, or even if they're just a black man who is not a parent, but you know he's affecting black women or is in a position to where he can have an impact on black women. And it got me thinking, you know, as far as the black community where there is an absence of fathers, that affects obviously boys and women. And I just was curious to like talk to you about the role that like a father may have or a black man may have, like, you know, because we were talking about the self-love thing earlier, and I hear that, you know, for black women, if my dad would have told me I was beautiful, if my dad would have told me this, if my dad would have brought me along for this, if, you know, it's a lot of things that black men, that we don't realize how much of a role or impact that we can play in young black women coming up.
Well, I think black fathers are the first line of defense when it comes to the world and perceptions of how black women should be. I think it's very important that black men are the first to affirm young girls, because it's different when your dad tells you that you're beautiful and when you hear it from him versus, you know, you trying to hear it from someone else. I think fathers can validate certain things that influence certain behaviors with young women. Because if girls say, you know, like if your dad tells you you're beautiful, you're smart, and you can do anything every day, you know, you're going to look for other men who say the same things, or partners, I should say, men or partners. You're going to look for other people who have those same traits, you know, who treat you with that kind of respect and who treat you with that kind of, with that dignity, you know, who make sure that you feel affirmed every single day. I think men play a really big role in that. Because black women, as you stated before, you know, we have a lot of strength. We have to, you know, always kind of show our superwoman cape. You know, I think black women and girls, you know, sometimes they need to feel vulnerable, you know, and yes, they can feel vulnerable amongst their friends or whatever, but, you know, for the brothers, the dads, the, you know, boyfriends, husbands, the people in their lives, like, they also want to make sure that they feel vulnerable in that space. They want to make sure that they feel appreciated. They want to make sure that they're being confirmed on everything that they may know that they are, or they may not know what they are. And so, you know, someone else can really play a big role in shaping that. And I think it starts with the fathers for sure. Yeah, that's definitely. Because, you know, I was just thinking about it, like, as far as a man's perspective, because obviously I don't have kids yet, but I do have a niece. You know, and just kind of seeing her, like, over the years getting older and older and older. You know, I'm glad that she has an active father in her life. But then I just also think about the young black girls who are coming up, especially in this generation. It's crazy, the ones who don't, and they can get lost out there in the world looking for love in all the wrong places. Absolutely. And I mean, and, you know, just as an uncle, just communicating with her, you know, it can make a world of a difference for you to tell her who she is. Like, you may not think it means anything, but, you know, if every time that she interacts with you and you tell her, like, hey, beautiful, that could really change how she thinks about herself. Right. Yeah, see, it's just those little things that, like, we don't, because, man, just be honest, we're dumb, we're duncy, like, we're just in this tunnel vision, and we don't realize the little things that we could do or say that could make a impact to spark something in a young black woman. It's crazy. What would you hope for? Well, obviously we know what the direction and what the book says. What are you hoping people get from the book as they read it? Wow, I mean, there's so many different things that I want to happen with this book that has already started happening in motion. So one of the things that I haven't publicized really, but it's something that I've been doing. So 10% of the proceeds of Hey Black Girl is going to a nonprofit organization. Nice. I have a mentor from Cincinnati who had a 17-year-old granddaughter who committed suicide in December. And when I look at her, I saw myself. It kind of choked me up a little bit because when I read, like, just her obituary, the things that people left on her website when she passed, you know, it just reminded me of myself. Like, I saw a lot of myself in her, and I remember being 17 and wanting to kill myself, you know, not wanting to be in this world. Like, that was something that you know, you never think that you would think about, because, you know, it's taboo in the black community to commit suicide, but more of our girls are committing suicide at rapid rates. You know, it's becoming more and more common. It's no longer just a thing, you know, that we identify with other cultures and other races. Like, it's something that's prevalent amongst black people. And it scares me specifically with black girls, because at 17 years old, you haven't even begun to scratch the surface of your life. You know, what could possess you to go and do something like that? that when you haven't even really started to live? And so so I'm partnering with her family to donate 10% of the proceeds through March to a nonprofit organization of their choice in her name. And for the lifetime of my book, I plan to donate 10% of my profits to a charity.
Really?
Every quarter I want to select another charity. And with those charities,
that's amazing.
I want the charities to be dedicated to the mental health, empowerment, working on self-esteem, anything that helps lift our Black girls. I want my book to be a part of that.
Wow. So this is just more than a book.
No, this is
man. Wow. That's
no. This is my mission.
Wow.
This is something that I believe that
Talk
God
more
placed
about
on
that,
me.
yeah.
And it feels right. It feels like, you know, it doesn't feel forced. It's not something that someone else asked me to do.
Yeah.
It's something that I woke up one day and I knew I had to do, like not only for myself, but just for other people. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of everything that I've been able to accomplish so far. And I'm proud of the things, you know, that will come into fruition as well. But, you know, really, this is just a mission. You know, I set a personal goal to sell 500 copies by March of this year. I want 500 girls to know that they matter, they are enough, to say the words of this book, and you know that is my goal.
Wow.
You know, and I won't stop until I get there. You know, like you said, it's been unstoppable. You know, I've been nonstop, and you know, for this cause, yes, you know, this is something I'm willing to lose sleep over, because I think little girls need to have that extra push. You know, I realize that my life may not have went every direction that I thought it was supposed to go, but the one thing about my life that I want people to always take away is that I always went for it, and I never stopped going for the things that I wanted. And if I can continue to, you know, slay my dragons and conquer whatever fears that I have and just go for the things that I want, I just hope that is enough inspiration for other little girls to do the same thing.
Wow. And it's you know, you mentioned, you know, when you was a teen that you was, you know, thinking about taking your own life at one point, you know, and I think it's important for people to hear that, because, you know, there's this stigma that, you know, us as Black people, like, we're so strong that, oh, we'll never consider that. We'll never take our own lives.
and the thing that you hear a lot is, you know, people will say, oh, well, you know, pray about it. Like, prayer works, no doubt, prayer works, but what has been significantly monumental in my life is therapy. I've been seeing a therapist since May. I still see a therapist. I don't see her as often. Like in the beginning, I was seeing a therapist every week. Then when I got to a place where I felt a little bit better, I started doing twice a month, and now I'm down to once a month. And like right now, I feel good, but I don't believe in being reactionary anymore. Like, me getting therapy was a reaction to a devastating event that had happened into my life. Now I believe that you have to be proactive about who you are, and that self-love and that self-care. Me seeing a therapist, even when I'm feeling good, is still an investment for me, because it just makes me understand, you know, if I'm still going in the right direction. Because I might think that I'm fine, but then I might talk to my therapist and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know, maybe I should think about something differently. And you know, and those services are important. You know, like, I even think for children, those services are important, because kids, especially Black kids, like, they see a lot. Like, they see and feel a lot, and you don't even process what some of those things mean until later.
Yeah. It's crazy, because like, and I like the space that we're in as far as like 2020 with this mental health initiative. It seems like within the Black community and Black environments that there's this push and initiative to normalize, you know, it's okay, like, if you need to get help and seek help, that's, you know, we're brought to, that's a sign of weakness.
It's not.
What you mean you going to a therapist?
It's not.
It was laughable.
I mean, if you have a problem with your body and go to the doctor, you'll go to the doctor. It's the same thing with your head. Like, therapy is no different than going to see a doctor. Like, you have to make sure that you're working on yourself. You have to do preventative maintenance, and if something does go wrong that's unexpected, you need to have an unbiased opinion of someone around you who can really help you sort out your problems. Because again, you know, parents, and that's the thing, going back to parents, a child and a parent relationship, parents want their kids to be open with them and transparent, but sometimes parents aren't open and transparent with them, or they're trying to push their ideals on their children, which may not be reflective of the direction that the child is going. And so what do you do when you're a child and, you know, your parent is telling you you're wrong and what they're saying is right? but you know something that's otherwise. Sometimes you need another person to intervene, because again, if you have a parent who's dealing with an unresolved issue, that may be all that they know, and they're pushing that down on you.
Yep.
So, you know, that's why I just think it's important, this whole mental health aspect. You know, I think affirmations are a big part of, you know, solving some of the mental roadblocks that we experience in life. You know, when Black girls think that they can't do it or can't be certain things, learning how to say those affirmations are important. One of the things that I started with Hey Black Girl, so I actually started a text subscription service. So my friends who have little girls, I subscribed all of their little girls to my text message, and every morning I send them a text message that says, hey Black girl, you're beautiful. Hey Black girl, you're enough. Hey Black girl, make sure that you're being grateful today. You know, it's important. It's important for them to do it. Like, one of my friends was like, yeah, my daughter went to her dad's house and she subscribed on his cell phone just to make sure that she still gets the messages when she's there, you know, because she looks forward to them. Those are things that they look forward to. And I subscribe them to it because even if they don't get the messages and the parents do, it's a reminder for their parents to affirm a child today, because we're dealing with so much right now, being in this pandemic, trying to work, trying to figure out, you know, what we like, you know, trying to balance so many things. I can only imagine the things that parents are going through right now, and a little thing like telling your kid that she's beautiful might slip through the cracks, and I just want to be that conduit that's a reminder to, hey, tell your child something positive today.
That's great, man. The day that you released this book, you went live when you were in the parking lot of Staples, and you just said, you know what, I'm just gonna stop right here because I gotta just make this quick video. And it was nothing like fancy or set up about it. You just pulled out your phone and you just went in. You just
absolutely.
And you got, you know, you could tell as you were speaking about, you know, your vision for the book, the inspiration for it. You spoke a little bit of your personal story, and there's one thing. Well, there's a couple of things that stood out to me in that live that you did, that I wanted to speak to you about, ask you about. You mentioned that in today's world, like there's this thing where young Black women may feel like there's no place for them in this world, and you said that that's unacceptable, and I wanted to like kind of expound on that with you a little bit of like why, like that shouldn't, to me, that like, why is that even a thought? You know, like that's crazy that our young Black girls coming up feel like they don't even feel like they can, like, where do I go? Like, what's my place in this world? What's my purpose? Like, and you was like, that's unacceptable. We have to create more avenues, more spaces, more, you know, organizations, jobs, and whatever the case may be, to make it feel like, you know, Black, they have a place to go, like a path to choose, you know. And, you know, for you, why is that unacceptable? That, well, obviously we know why, but I just wanted to let you expound on that.
Well, I think it's unacceptable because I think everyone should have a sense that they belong somewhere. And it's not even just the fact of belonging and assimilating to where you are. I think people need to feel like they can belong and be themselves. I think that is what I believe is unacceptable, because there are people who, you know, young Black girls or older Black women who are going into spaces, but they're not authentic in those spaces because they're not in a space that allows them to freely be who they are. And that's the biggest detriment for me. When we waste our lives being someone else, we never truly get to know the true extent and potential of ourselves. And that is why I think these spaces are important. You know, again, now that I've had an opportunity to start to speak to some of these groups, to start speaking to some of these young girls and these parents, you know, I'm learning about different things, you know, because I grew up in a inner city school. You know, I lived in a Black neighborhood. You know, my experience is different. Well, I met a little girl, the very first little girl who was able to get my book. Her mother, it shared to me that she goes to an all-girls school, and she's pretty much the only little Black girl in her class. There's only a handful of Black girls that go to her school, and it's a different reality for her. And even though she's 6, like she said, right now, it's like she's a leader. She's like ahead of the, you know, the class. Like, people are following her. That might shift one day. And, you know, and she may no longer feel like she's comfortable in that space, because right now, you know, at a certain age, kids really don't know any better. They don't think about race and things. But I don't know what turns on that switch. But once that switch is activated, it's hard not to look at things like that and to wonder if you truly fit in.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want people to still be able to unapologetically be themselves in those spaces. And I just want everyone to stop wearing a mask. I mean, not because of COVID. Wear a mask because of COVID-19. Please wear a mask. But the hypothetical mask.
Yeah.
I want people to stop wearing the hypothetical mask of feeling like they have to be someone else just to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, you think that you're breathing when you're wearing a mask, but you know, you really start to breathe when you take the mask off.
Yeah, it's crazy just to think about how many external factors play into, you know, a person building up so many masks and, you know, having a wall up. And then, you know, you were mentioning in your live as well, you know, you said, hey, I just turned 30 and I'm just getting to the point where, you know, in my life, I'm comfortable with who I am. I feel like I love myself. I'm feeling confident as I ever been. Like you reach this place, you know, right at the 30-year mark where all those, like, those masks, those things, just, you know what, let's get rid of them. Let's shred those masks. And it just makes me think about the journey that not only you went through, as far as, you know, getting to that point where you can feel comfortable with yourself, being who you are, you love yourself, your confidence at an all-time high, but also the other woman, you know, who go through that journey, and some of them go through it alone, you know. And it seems like that road could be full of setbacks. You know, you get to a point where you gain some ground, then something happens and boom, you knock back down again. Talk about, you know, you don't have to get in detail, but how was that journey for you? Like, getting to that point where you just like, you know what, I love myself, I'm confident that this is who I am.
Well, Jerome, I didn't know this at the time, but in 2019, going into 2020, I had prayed for a theme for the year. You know, people sometimes set a theme like this, you know, they pick a word that will describe their year. And my word in 2020 was make room. I had no idea what that was going to mean and what that was going to look like. And, you know, in 2020, I lost a lot. You know, like, I was married, not married anymore. I had friendships that I lost in 2020. There were certain business that I lost in 2020. And I had to learn how to make room, because the problem was I've been running my whole life. I've been running to be something, to try to achieve and to show that, you know, that I'm this super, you know, super black girl. I can do anything. I can do whatever, you know, I'm this and I'm that. And 2020 was truly the year that God says, this is time for you to sit down and to realize that the things that you thought made you are not the things that make you. You learn a lot when you go through those dark periods. I think learning who you are is an evolutionary process. It's not something that you wake up one day and say, this is everything that I am. These are all the traits, and this is what I'm going to be infinitely. Yeah. Because your traits change over time. Your traits change with the different scenarios and experiences that you have. But the beauty of those scenarios and those negative experiences is that it shows you who you're not. And I can't tell you everything that I am, but I can tell you who I'm not. And those are the things that I'm most appreciative of. And, you know, those are some of the things that, you know, I just want young girls to understand. Like, girls, like, I just remember growing up thinking that I had to have everything figured out. I had to have all of the details. Like, everything had to make sense. And sometimes it doesn't have to make sense. You have to learn how to live life organically. And living life organically means not always following the crowd, not always following the mold, but following the things that make you feel good and the things that make you.
Yeah, not gonna have all the answers.
No, you won't, and you shouldn't have all the answers. You know, I used to ask why a lot, and I don't ask why anymore. I ask how. You know, how can I utilize what is in front of me to live a better life? You know, how can I take this lemon and turn it into lemonade? Like, you know, those are the types of questions that I try to ask myself. Sometimes you don't need to know the why. The why is not for you to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And your mantra for 2021 is lead your life.
Yep.
How fitting. That's perfect. Before we get out of here, let's talk about the new podcast series that you started in conjunction with Hey Black Girl. We'll leave off on that note. So this is like a whole, like, this reminds me of like when back in the days when the rappers would come out, the whole package deal. You buy the album, you get this, you get that, you get that. So talk to us about the new podcast series that you started in conjunction with this. Also, how can we get to it?
Wow. So the podcast is not released yet as of this recording, but the podcast will release, and I will send you the link prior to this recording being taken out. Yeah. But yeah, I started a Hey Black Girl audio series.
So that's the title of it?
Yep.
Hey Black Girl,
the audio series. So it's going to be a limited series where I break down some of the different elements of the book. So the first story is called Relax, and it's about a 10-year-old girl who tries to give herself a relaxer. So it's, it's poetic. It's me telling the story. I do my voices because I'm very dramatic, if you haven't found that out already. I'm really dramatic, and at the end of the podcast, I talk a little bit about my experiences and what inspired me to write that piece. And then I have questions for parents and the child to talk about, because I want to create dialogue around these conversations. Like, Hey Black Girl is just a start, but there are so many other nuances to these issues that we're experiencing. And so I think the podcast is a great way for kids to listen, because a lot of adults listen to a podcast. Yeah. A lot of the kids podcasts that are out are like, hey, this is how stuff works and this is science and stuff. But I want kids to be able to access podcasts too, so they can be just like their parents and listen to those things. So
that's fun. Sounds like that's going to be fun. The name of the book is Hey Black Girl. Whitney B, a woman of a lot of different hats. You do a lot of stuff, but it seems like this thing here that you done is really impactful, really meaningful. Like you said, it's not manufactured, it's not from
No, it's real. Everything you see is just organic. I'm not forcing it.
That's dope. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Where can people connect with you, find you at again, and also get the book and things of that nature? Go ahead and plug
You can
away.
Find me on the gram at Whitney L. Barkley or at Pink Lemonade Podcast. Make sure you listen to Pink Lemonade Podcast. Shameless plug.
There you go. Plug away, whatever you got going on.
Pink Lemonade Podcast on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, please make sure that you check out Hey Black Girl. Again, 10% of the proceeds of this book will go to a nonprofit dedicated to uplifting and empower Black women and girls. So you can get the book at bit.ly/Hey Black Girl.
Dope. Nice. Well, this has been another episode of Cloth Talk Podcast. Make sure if you are in need of any graphics, anything for your website, any flyers, anything that you need that to visually represent your brand and your company, hit up theflyeragency.com. Shout out to the Reality Is podcast, which is powered by Roberts Media Group. Dope podcast out there in Dallas. And all my artists, send your music to calltalk5@gmail.com. Please, if you're sending music, MP3 files, please attach the name of the artist, the name of the song, and your social media info so we can shout you out. All right, we'll see you next time on another episode of Cloth Talk Podcast. Goodbye.
Peace.